bulk of it's already kind of got underway. A lot of people play key roles into this. Obviously, it starts with ownership always, but Dan and the coaching staff, they did a great job. Had a lot of new coaches. They bought in pretty quickly. They got adjusted pretty quickly to the evaluation process and how we do things. And pro personnel department, obviously led by Rob Lohman. But the rest of the pro personnel department, Joe Keller, Justin Licker, Blake Ask, all those guys. I mean, that's basically their Super Bowl, from a process standpoint, to get all the guys lined up for us to evaluate and look at. And obviously Ray Agnew, his voice and his evaluation, his opinions, very critical, plays a large role in our process. And Charlie Atkins, this was his first free agency this year. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. First year, but yeah, I thought he did a great job. That's a hard job to do. The way that our structure is and how it's set up, I mean, you have to be an elite communicator to get those deals done, regardless if it's guys that are already on our team or guys that have been on our team that you've had previously dialogue with, or external free agents. It's a very hard job, and I thought that he knocked it out the park with it. So just want to give credit to everybody. Look, I'm more than happy with how free agency went, and I say more than happy because we were able to get guys that we really wanted to get. That's always the case. Like, we don't compromise and get a prospect that we're warm on. So happy with that, but more than happy because we actually were able to do more than what I thought we were actually going to be able to do heading into it. I don't know if I was as clear as I could have been at the combine, but I try to kind of let our fans know that we were not going to be big spenders, coming up because of all the things that we have coming up in the future. So I knew we were going to be in that corner market. That corner market was expensive. I mean, just the get in the door entry price was $16 million, and I didn't. If you would have told me that we would have been able to get a corner for that much, with the defensive lineman that we ever get and, getting TP back and all that, I wouldn't have thought we would be able to do that. So just a credit to everybody, especially, Charlie Atkins, Mike Disner, from a football administration standpoint, making sure that financially we were going to be able to do that. But more than happy about taking any questions you guys got.
What do you still have left to do in free agency, if anything? We look at pass rush a little bit, guard. I mean, I know it's not sort of a never-ending process, but what in your eyes do you still have left to do?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still guys out there that that we're still staying in contact with. I mean, for right now, the higher dollar guys, we're probably past that point now. We're kind of more in the lower deals, whatever that's third wave, whatever wave it is now. But we're still monitoring. But what happens is that now you get to a point of that we have a lot of young players on our team that, that we're still excited about. It may not be players that have gotten a line share of snaps, in the regular season last year, but that we've been watching, throughout the year that we're really excited about. So it gets to a point now where it's like, well, do you want to add another veteran that you might not be as excited about, but you might be a little bit more excited about, this second-year guy that, probably spent, a little bit of time on the practice squad, got active a little bit of time. So we're kind of at that point now. But, pretty much all positions are really still on the table, just to kind of add depth and competition across the board.
I'd ask you about that cornerback.
Like, especially on the pass rush and other defenses, it's like bring the band back together again.
Yep.
So get healthy and keep the guys there. Is that kind of the game plan going in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, look, me and Dan get on the same page early on in the process about who we want to bring back, and also, we get on the same page about who we're interested in adding externally. But look, we won 15 games with those guys, so it wasn't that, we just want to bring the guys back. But I also do understand it's not as exciting from a fan standpoint. Look, I always say with free agency, like, season ends, right? Super Bowl gets played, Super Bowl's over, and then it's like, okay, what's next? Like, everybody is starving for, and free agency is the first event on the NFL calendar that's intense player acquisition. So the excitement is just brewing and it's simmering, and it's only really exciting if you get players that you hadn't seen before on your team. And but look, like I tell you guys all the time, we stack our own guys with the rest of the league by position. So look, we might have another player within position ranks, within stacks. We might have an external player that's ranked up here, and then our own guy that's down here. Well, if the money's about the same and it's something that we can actually financially are able to do, we're going to get the guy that we may not know, but we're just going to upgrade our football team. But sometimes our own guy is above a guy that might be a name that is out there. But then the other times that sometimes there's a name that's out there that we just financially just can't do. We lost some of our own guys just because financially we weren't going to be able to do. But I do think that's part of the discipline that's required for where we're at as a football team right now. And that is, yes, the balance of winning now, but also wanting to sustain winning as well. So there's a discipline, like this analogy popped in my head this morning of that, you have financial responsibilities. You have, you have a mortgage, or, your kid's college fund, your 529, you have your insurance you have to pay. You have to pay those things. But that might require you can't take the vacation you really want right now, this summer. And so that's kind of where we are right now, is that we have so many of these young players that have been on rookie deals, and we've been enjoying the impact that they've all been bringing. But now a bill is coming, and what you spend this year, it's going to impact next year. It even impacts 2027. So that's the discipline that we have to adhere to. And I don't really expect the fans, it's not the fans' job to know all the details of the interdisciplinary studies. I don't even know if that's even the right context.
It was
but
pretty good.
But it is. It's like I don't expect them to understand that. Like, and if I was just a fan, as much as I love our fans, I'd be the same way. Like, hey, look, splash, get guys, spend the money, let's go. But I just want to make sure that the fans understand that we're being disciplined in our approach, because we're trying to win now and also sustain what we want to do. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I hope that makes sense.
With that in mind, what's your definition of a successful offseason going forward with where this franchise is at?
What would define a successful offseason? I mean, I think staying the course of what we've done so far. Again, like I said, more than happy that what we were able to do is, look, we love DJ Reed. I mean, that was, you talking about a guy that literally just fit who we are like a glove. Very gritty and tenacious. He's scheme diverse. I really was impressed with his man-to-man coverage snaps. He's feisty. He'll tackle. He'll support on the edge. So he fits us. But then when you follow up, like trying to replenish the defensive line, and let's just call it what it is. I mean, we're kind of in the position on the D-line standpoint because of injuries. When healthy, we have a lot of good defensive linemen, but Mac might take a little while. I think feel good about Hutch, and that's the other thing. Look, I know everybody's craving about an edge rusher, but I mean we have one of, in our opinion, one of the elite guys, and I don't look how many elite edge rushers are in the NFL. I mean, 4 or 5. Would you think one of our guys is one of them? Well, if it's 4 or 5 elite edge rushers in the league, right? How many teams are in the league? 32, right? Usually 2 defensive ends are on the field at the same time, right? So that's 64. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so, because we have at least one of them, you got to make sure that you kind of keeping that in context as well. So, unfortunately, he got hurt last year, and I know how it goes. Psychologically, you think that guy gets hurt, guy gets a big-time injury, he's not on the team anymore. you know, he wasn't there at the end. He's not on the team nor no. Hutch will be. We feel great about where he's at in this process, so he's going to help in the pass rush. And, you know, to be able to get Levi back, you know, he was rolling with his pressures, and hopefully he can get home even more. So that's going to help out a lot more. Hopefully, you know, with bringing Davenport back, hopefully his injury luck is on the right side of things. You know, that frees up Josh Paschal, you know, to be able to do a lot more from a pass rush standpoint, really more interior-wise than outside. We just had to use Paschal as an edge rusher because of circumstances with injuries and all of that. So we feel good where we're at to be able to get Lopez, you know, to fill, you know, he's more of a first and second down run defender, but to be able to have him back and still got a reader. So we feel pretty good. We're getting kind of heavy on the defensive line. Not saying that any position will be ignored, but so far I feel like we've had success, and we're going to continue to fill depth because I think, as you guys saw last year, how important that part is.
One more follow-up about Hutch. Just how did you have a young guy going through an injury like that, how did the organization continue to empower him as far as to make sure he's in the right mental state and just the confidence that you guys got moving forward that he can continue that play?
Yeah, just making sure that, you know, me and Dan make sure that he's known that, look, you're not off on an island, you know. Be in the facility, what you wanted to do, and, you know, be in the trainer, be in the meetings, you know, come out to practice if you can. I mean, you're still a key cog of this operation, and, you know, just checking in on him, you know, seeing him in the training room, seeing how he is, you know, getting all the weekly updates. So yeah, I don't think hopefully he never felt like he was separated from the team, because, you know, when you get a major injury and you're out there rehabbing, as hard as he works and as much as he's doing extra on his own when nobody's watching, you know, I think it's, from a human standpoint, it's easy to feel that way. But just not only with Hutch, but with all of our players that are all dealing with injury, that's kind of how we want to approach it.
You're not worried about him coming back? I mean, the leg, it's a broken bone, so it's not, I guess.
I mean, look, we don't have a crystal ball on anything. We're just going to see where it's at. But I've seen enough movement in mobility in running at this stage that I feel very confident where he's going to be at.
You touched on this at the end of the season about Mahogany being ready if you need him. I imagine Zeitler's one of those guys he has looked into and just couldn't pay the price tag. So, I guess, can you reemphasize your confidence in Mahogany, and do you envision him right side, left side? Is that something that still needs to be sorted out?
Yeah, you know, he did most of his college on the right side. I think he can do both. He's done both early on before he had you know, when he got sick or whatever with the mono deal. But we had him doing both in OTAs. But he can play both. But look, he's still, it's a small sample size of the starts that he played. They were promising, they were encouraging. We do feel like he has starter level ability, but he still is a young player, so we still need to make sure that he has competition. And you know, it's part of, you know, we bring Yodi back, and you know, and we'll still be looking at, you know, maybe possible another veteran to add, and then you still have the draft, you know. And, you know, look, I'm not saying it's always going to be in the 6th round where we got Mahogany, but, you know, you just never know when we're going to be able to get one of those guys.
There was some big money being spent on the defensive line too, so I'm just curious how big of a win you view that Levi deal.
Oh man, look, if you were to tell me that we were going to get that done, you know, back when we first were trying to get Levi extended, you know, back in the fall, you know, I would have been doing a backflip, and I literally almost was doing a backflip, because, like I said, I did not think that we were going to be able to get a player of his caliber back, along with how expensive that corner market got. And I knew that we had to be in that corner market. That's not anything against Rakestraw. We're still excited about Rakestraw, but unfortunately he had injuries, and you know, he wasn't healthy enough to provide us a little bit more clarity in terms of where he was going to be. So I didn't think it was going to be rational for us to depend on it. But I know how Rakestraw's wired, and this is going to fuel him to be ready and compete. So we're still excited about him, but it's just we're just adding depth. We're excited to get a guy like Maddox, a veteran that's got versatility. He can compete. Obviously, he can play nickel, but he's got some safety versatility as well that we're excited about, and he can play on special teams as well. So we're just going to continue to add to that secondary. We got Rockison, another veteran. That's look, he fits in terms of he can play man to man, he can press up. So we're going to continue to add to the secondary, but we're really excited about our depth and what we're able to acquire on the D-line.
Right, I'm sure you expected that defensive end money to jump like it did, but did you expect it to jump as high as it did, and what does that mean for your future plan?
In terms of like what the future, what the price tag is going to be, look, it is what it is. I mean, we had it in that range kind of already, when we do our future planning and budgeting. But then obviously when it goes up, it just goes up, and that's just what you got to prepare for. I don't know what it'll end up being. That's the difficult part about our job, but we work really hard in terms of the prediction and forecasting of that market. But that he's just one of many that we've had to budget, and like I said, the mortgage and the kids' college fund and all that. He's one of many that we had to put to aside, and then the budget that we were able to spend this year, that kind of just shrunk it a little bit more, but still ecstatic with what we're being able to do.
Brad, with 73 players on the roster currently, does that affect how maybe you plan for the draft and for undrafted guys, how many you might draft, or when you trade down to get more picks but you don't have enough room? How does that all affect?
Yeah, that's just a really good question. Look, we're going to operate in the draft just like how we normally operate, and we're going to prepare. We've done a lot of work already, and we're just going to just go by the feel of how the how the board and the picks are shaping up. I think if you go back to last year's draft, I think on day three, I thought we were just going to just stay pat and just kind of see it, but it just kind of woke up, feeling in a different mind and just want to be a little bit more aggressive. Didn't have a fourth-round pick. Didn't think that we were going to be able to trade into the fourth round twice to get players that we really, really liked. So I might wake up feeling that way, or we might, stay pat, or it's looking like it's a little bit more rational to trade back and get more picks.
Would that mean that you would make room on the existing roster if you had to? Like if there was opportunities you couldn't pass up, would you maybe have to let go of a guy or two that you haven't seen yet?
That could happen. That could happen, and that's part of it. Look, you want to do as much before the draft to make you feel cozy enough to be in a position to not have to reach for need or anything like that. But that is part of it. Is look, you might trade up and sacrifice a lot of picks, and you don't have a lot of the picks that you originally had, and it's like, oh, it works out great. Or I don't know how many guys that we really wanted after the draft that you're going to be able to get. So, but that's part of the risk, and I always say risk is what's left after you think you've thought of everything, and that unfortunately could happen.
You said with NS.
Times.
Go ahead.
How difficult it was to acquire Zadarius Smith. So what went into the decision to part ways with him, and is he one of the guys that you've been in contact with?
Yeah, look, it was an amicable decision. We couldn't afford it. It's bottom line. That was my communication with him, and he understood that. But again, that's an expensive position, and like I told you guys at the combine, it's not being ignored. Like everybody's asking for one defensive end. Well, no, we'd love to get 3 or 4. So it's something that's not being ignored, but we just weren't in a position to really keep him at his salary. Because look, he played some good snaps for us, and he made plays for us when we acquired him. So we would have loved to have been able to keep him, but we just weren't able to. But we've been keeping in touch with his agent, and he understands that process. So we'll just see how it goes.
You said with with Ennis. You couldn't see enough to bank on,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it kind of a similar situation with Roy Lopez and Broderick Martin? Because it seems you're maybe a little heavy on nose tackle. Where does Broderick still fit in the picture for you?
Yeah, hey, Broderick, look, he's got to be consistent. Broderick has. We knew when obviously you guys all know I was very clear and transparent that he was more in the developmental project bucket when we took him, but now it's time for him not to just, because he brought flashes in the preseason. When he came from his injury, he brought flashes, but he had some low points as well. So we need to see more of the consistency of the flashes, and he just needs to be a consistent player, and he knows that. We've had transparent conversations, and so he knows that he needs to be a consistent player. He's got all the ability, he's got all the physical tools to be a consistent player, but so we'll just see. Hopefully he does come around where he is a consistent player, but and I think he understands that of the year that he's heading into.
5 more minutes, guys. Sign a quarterback, obviously. What, if anything, does that mean for Hendon Hooker's future? You go right into that.
I mean, look, it's competition. That's all it is. I mean, look, we like Hendon, excited about him. I've always said about Hendon, kind of a lot of steps on his journey coming out of high school and, at Virginia Tech or Tennessee, like, it wasn't immediately he was the guy. So, he had the injury that first year. Then last year, that was the first year that he kind of was able to do a full year, of training camp and during the season. But, and then we brought Teddy Bridgewater in just because we're gearing up for the playoffs and postseason. He just wasn't ready yet, and he understood that, but still got high hopes for him. But nobody's going to be given a job either. So if Hendon wants to be the number 2 quarterback, then win the number 2 quarterback job.
Have you made a 5th-year option decision with Jameson yet? I know you got a month still to kind of work through that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's heading that way. That we're most likely going to be doing that. Look, he was a tremendous player for us last year. He's still scratching the surface. I do think he's got more in him as well, so I just think it just makes sense for us to do what we can to keep him around.
I know you've been good about rewarding your guys who you brought in, extensions and stuff like that. Is it any like, I would say, like, pressure or anything, but just to get that weight off before the season when you can extend some of these guys, or is that just when you guys feel like it's the time to do it? Like
I think everything is case by case. Whether it's with the agent and the communication, or really if it's from a financial standpoint, I think every player would love to get it done sooner rather than later. But everything is kind of organic and case by case. We don't intentionally not do things at one point versus the other. But bottom line is say like it's Kirby, he's a player that we want to keep, and we've let that be known. He's a fit for us, for our team. He's a really good player. But in terms of the timing, we'll just kind of see where it goes. But he also goes in the bucket of being disciplined with finances, where, again, I'll go back to the mortgage and the kids' college fund. You gotta budget for that.
Same topic, but just to tie those 2 questions in. Jameson, because he had the suspensions.
Yeah.
Is he at that level that you're willing to do an extension with him? Does he have more to prove? How does he fit into that long term?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're still taking it, as it goes. Look, his 5th-year option's coming. It's looking likely that we'll go ahead and just pick that up. But in terms of extension, again, there's a lot of extensions that are hopefully coming. But it's just one that you just don't know what's going to happen from a financial standpoint, because a wide receiver, it's expensive. It's very expensive. So, look, these are good problems. These are good problems to have. But I just want to make sure that more so that our fans, I don't want our fans to think that we're just, you know, not making the splashy move because, you know, we don't want to do that. It's just we're just being disciplined and make sure that we were able to sustain winning, but also win now.
Vacation in the plans next year.
Huh?
Is the vacation in the plans next year?
I'm not sure. I think there's no vacation next year for sure. Look again, the Bills coming. You know, the Bills coming, and all these guys, they're really good players. Like I told you at the combine, yeah, it's, you know, you could say it's been 5 first-round picks, but those 2 twos that we had in 23, you know, that we had graded as first-rounders, those guys have played up to the level that we thought. So you could arguably say it's 7, you know, and, you know, you want to keep them all. You know, we'll try to, but we might not be able to keep them all. So we're just going to try to do the best we can.
The last 2, Stoney and Jeremy?
Later throws, as we've seen other teams, you have to pay more.
Yeah, and we do have a timeline that we've kind of came together and thought about. You know, nothing's guaranteed, nothing's 100%, but we have talked about how we would, in an ideal world, how we like to handle and approach and attack each one. So we'll keep that in house right now, but we have thought about that timeline.
We've talked a lot about the coaching changes that you guys have to go through, just kind of a natural part
Yeah.
of being a good team. Same kind of things have been going on with the front office.
Yeah.
You've probably lost 4 or 5 guys in the last 3 years alone. Can you just talk about the challenge, that part of the challenge?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it is something that we do anticipate. You know, me and Dan are very conscious. It's about, look, when you have success, you know, guys are gonna want to poach our guys. It's more with the coaches, but yeah, it's happening in the front office as well. And I'm happy for all those guys, but that's just part of, you know, always having some kind of succession plan in place, especially when you start to identify the guys that are truly kind of rising the ranks, and, you know, they're like, man, this is a good, he's going to be a star. And, you know, it's hard to keep the stars. So, you know, it's my job, it's Dan's job to always have a succession plan in place. It's some immediate pain, but the worst thing you can do is not have a succession plan in place and lose patience and, you know, start making irrational decisions. So I think we do a good job of planning and make sure we have a succession plan. You know, I'm happy for Mike Martin. You know, I think that's a really, just my brief conversations I had with Coach Freeman, I mean, it sounds like a great opportunity. I did not really know the whole landscape of that college GM job, and it seems pretty awesome. So I understood it was an opportunity that would have been hard to turn down, but we'll just keep moving forward. We'll miss him. You know, he was, you know, a good evaluator. He brought a lot of great ideas to our process, but, you know, scouting advancement, it's a whole department for us, so that department's not going anywhere.
Do you have an example of one of those rising stars within the organization that maybe we don't know too much about?
I want to keep it under wraps. It's a good try, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
We're trying to keep the ones we have, all right? Thanks, Jeremy.